All right, Kevin, back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I am here with Justin. And Justin, I totally forgot to ask you before we hit the record button, how do we pronounce your last name? And I should have done that, but hey, I'm just human too.
Vajko, silent J.
Vajko, very good. And I got to tell you, I want to start off too by giving a shout out to Mark Aylward, because you and I, we wouldn't even be talking if it weren't for him. And right. What a power to the testament of relationships, to the power of relationships. And I interviewed him for the podcast, and afterwards he was like, man, Kevin, he said, I'm going to connect you with Justin. He would be such an amazing person for you to interview. And you know what? Whenever I do an interview with somebody and after the fact they say that to me, it's like, I'm just like, well, if you feel that way, then I sure as heck feel that way. And so you and I, we already had this conversation a while back where you and I got to know each other a little bit. And I'm like, yep, I can totally see this. And so here we are. And we get to do this interview today. So, Justin, welcome. I am just so excited to have you here and to have this conversation.
Thank you, Kevin.
And what I'd like to do is just kind of start off by turning it over to you so that we can set a little bit of context. We can let the listeners know, like, who's Justin and what really inspires Justin both. So why don't you share about what you do, who you serve, what inspires you most about the work you do, and even give us some of that backstory of how we got here. And we'll start there, Justin.
Yeah, I would love to tell you that story, because that's the story that's fresh in my mind. So I'm in marketing. I run a marketing agency. We do short form video production. Okay. But where it came from was I read this. So I've been doing all sorts of marketing tasks my whole life, 13 years as a marketer, and out on my own now for the last 5 years. And a few years ago, I don't remember how many now, I read this book called Built to Sell by John Warlow. And I remember reading that book and thinking, wow, this is nothing like what I've learned about what it takes to build a successful business, let alone a successful marketing agency. And Built to Sell essentially is this idea that you got to sell one thing really well, one thing, and productized. It's a productized offer, really. It's not a bunch of custom work. And the book is great because it's told in a story format. I was able to follow it very easily. I think I had the audiobook too. And that was life-changing for me when I read that, because at the time I was offering a bunch of everything to everybody when it comes to marketing. Oh, you need a logo? Oh, you need a website? I'm your man, and good at quite a few of them, but it's very exhausting to sell everything to everybody. And plus you don't get to be known for anything that way. Right. So I read that book, and ever since I started, when I read that book, I started keeping an eye out. What is my scalable service? What's the one thing I want to sell more of? Because if I'm going to sell one thing, it's got to be good. People have to want it. I have to be excited about selling it. I have to be good at it, right? To some degree. Yep. You would hope so, at least. Yep. And so a year ago, this time, and this is October 2023 right now, our conversation. So October of last year, 2022, I got a client come in, and they were an agency, and they said, hey, we got this client in LA. They're a broker. They want to do short form video. They got Instagram Reels. They want to do some video on there. And I thought, well, at the time we were doing video as an agency. We were offering like on-site shoots, and they were thousands of dollars, and we still do those. But this client didn't have that budget. And I just recently come across this software called Riverside that allows one to record high quality video and audio remotely, kind of like Zoom, but more for high quality recordings. Okay. And so I told this client, like, hey, we can do that. Let's put together a package, and we sold them. At the time it was like $350 for one of these sessions. So very, very inexpensive. And we got the client interviewed at the beginning with their webcam, and it worked out. I was like, this is great. Wow, this is working. And a few weeks later, I realized, that book, the thinking behind that book started kicking in. Like, I wonder if this is a scalable service. Could I scale this one thing? Because I discovered I was really good at interviewing people. I really enjoyed it as an extrovert. And then I also discovered that it's relatively simple and scalable to do this. If I want to take myself out of the equation someday, we got to hire a producer and an editor and a scheduler, and that's pretty much it. And we can do hundreds of these. And so I started thinking, are there other people like this broker, like this client, who need this kind of product? And that's where, over a period of months now and a year later, that's what I do.
Wow. Very cool. Very cool. And so how did, I mean, so your interview process and stuff, how did you find out that you just had this natural ability or this, skill set to be able to do this? How did that uncover, Justin?
That's a good question. So over the previous 3 years, I had been doing interviews with some of the other video products we were selling, the on-site stuff. And I discovered it from that process that I had a knack for breaking down people's nervousness and making them feel more comfortable on camera. Whatever, empathy, whatever you want to call it. I discovered that. And so as we started these sessions, I realized, oh, that skill still applies remotely, despite all the, we're having a tech problem, and how to guide them through that. And so it was a process. That wasn't the moment I discovered it, but it was definitely one of those moments of confirming I had that gift and that ability.
That is, discovering what Dan Sullivan of Strategic Coach refers to as our unique ability is a really amazing process, because when it comes to unique ability, and unique ability is this thing or this handful of things that we love doing, that they just come naturally to us, that they will not come naturally to other people, because everybody has their own unique ability. And, you have discovered yours in doing this. And a lot of times, we kind of just like shuffle it off, because we're like, when it comes to unique ability, we think, oh, well, anybody could do that. And that's because it comes so easy to us. And no, not anybody could do that. When it comes to video, I know there's a whole lot of people that are very uncomfortable with the thought of, even though they know that if they got out there on video and were being able to talk about their company and do it in a certain way that just really resonated and connected with other people, that it would be really good for their company. But yet, the idea of being on video is so foreign to them, so uncomfortable, maybe even downright scary, that they don't do it, even though there's a big, huge upside to doing it, And so for you to step in and say, hey, I see you. I totally get where you're at. And I think I could help you with this. And together, I would love to help you do this, and really love to help you get your messaging out there in a much more powerful way. And I mean, what an amazing service. What an amazing service. And so kudos to you, man. And I think that's awesome. I can see why people are being attracted to you. I can see why Mark connected us, because you're just one of these guys who just shows up to serve, to help, and to contribute and pour into others. And good for you. And that's awesome.
I try, man. I try.
Well, okay. So now that we've got a little bit of context set, I'm going to switch gears, and I'm going to reiterate the question for the benefit of the listeners. So, Justin, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons that completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And Justin, I'm really excited to hear your story, your experience around this topic of relationships.
Yeah, that $1 million person to me is when we were right about to hop onto this episode, you asked me, you have your person ready, and you're asking me, do you have that person in mind? And day to day that can change, right? We all have huge, impactful relationships, but today, that person, I was just thinking about it over the last year, because I've been doing this a year, really was my business coach, my executive coach, Brent Hafley. So call out to Brent, because to answer your question, if it weren't for Brent, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing with the short form video. He was the one that saw that. He said, hey, you're doing all these things, and And I told him about the John Warlow book, and having that different perspective was helpful, because I remember January of this last year, 2023, I was actually thinking of selling this to TA teams and employer branding teams as one more tool to have their employees get to create video and attract talent. And I was just getting really nowhere fast, really struggling with that. And he challenged me on that. He said, where are you getting progress? Where are you getting more interest? Well, from, companies that want to get sales from this, like this one broker. And he's like, well, what if you tried more of that, in his own coaching way, not as a consultant, but he really helped me see that. And that was hugely instrumental, because I was very uncomfortable going in that direction. Because up till last January, really, I was 90% of what I was selling was to companies that needed to attract talent. And we were doing social media stuff, and we were doing job description stuff, and we were doing all these things. And Brent really helped me see the opportunity I didn't fully see for myself.
Okay. So what has transpired since, that took place, and you started to get a whole lot more clarity around the opportunity and the scale of the opportunity that was really there? What has happened since then?
Yeah. So what happened since then is, when we worked together and started really diving into it, I've gotten dozens of sales of the video product. We've got the business now in a place where we are positioned for scalability, hashed out a bunch of details. When you start a new product, it's not going to be figured out right away.
That's right.
Hashed out you know what I mean? It's like, it's going to be kind of awkward. You're going to make mistakes. We did that. We made all those mistakes, and we're probably still going to make many mistakes, only a year in. But it's really neat to have seen how this product came out of a demand last fall, and then got some coaching, got some perspective, tried some things, and really put it in a place where now it's ready to go, and we're getting sales. Like, we're getting sales in the last month. I think I shared right before the call, we got 12 leads, 12, 13 leads in the last month alone. And it just proves that, like, it works. If you do this and you get the right people to give you perspective, and you act, and you have a plan, you're going to make mistakes, but you're going to learn, and you're going to build it better every time. And so it's just really cool to see that.
Yeah. And so with where you're at right now, Justin, and what you've experienced so far, how has that impacted your vision for what's possible as far as your, not just you personally, but even with through the clients and the customers that you get to serve? What has that done for your vision as far as, like, what is possible? What can you see from the vantage point you're at right now?
Yeah, what I can see is helping a whole crap ton of people get their vision and their mission and their value out there in the world through what we're doing. So that's the big thing. My goal is to grow to $1 million business. Always has been, but now I have that. That's way more achievable now that I have the scalable service. It's very cool. It's something that I'm excited for. Taking a step back, even from my backstory, a few years ago, I realized I'm a serial entrepreneur. Like, there's only going to be so much time that I can dedicate toward a task before it becomes old news to me. So I'm excited about helping lots of people and having the ability, like in the book, John Warlow's book, having the ability to step away if I want to someday, and really giving a team of experts the ability to run the company. And I'm excited for what, if I can get this to work, what's after this, probably I try not to think about that too much, because there's still so much work in front of me, but I'm excited because it's finally, I have a business that doesn't depend on me to run it every second of the day. And so that feels good.
I don't know whether, the right word is, I'm definitely an optimist for sure. And I look in my own life and in my own business, I've been doing what I do intentionally, really seriously focused on it for 7 years now. And we've made a lot of progress in that 7 years. And specifically in the last 16 months, it's been exponential growth. It's kind of like, we've heard that hockey stick example that you kind of just go, and all of a sudden it just starts taking off. and things have been going well for a while, but you get to the point where you have such a solid foundation in place, and now just opportunity just starts coming to you because you get known as, you need to talk with Justin about this,
Right.
and so I am totally with you, man. I mean, because I look back at my own history and where I've come from, and I remember starting out, and I remember how jazzed I was, and to this day, you know what? I mean, we've made a lot of progress. I'm really excited by where we are right here, right now. But also, as I look ahead, I can only imagine where we're going to be in 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And I get jazzed thinking about, man, I can only imagine where we're going to be. And I'm just excited to be along for the ride. And,
Absolutely.
you are just one of these guys who loves helping, loves serving, loves contributing, and it just comes through loud and clear. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation, Justin. And for anybody that's listening into this, going, man, Kev, I really like Justin. I like the way he shows up. I like what he stands for. How can they find out more about you and the work you guys are doing?
Yeah, they can just visit our website. So two things come to mind. One, they visit our website, dialoguewith.us. Dialogue is spelled without the UE at the end.
Okay.
And then they can learn, you can see all the pricing, see examples, things like that, and contact me there. Or they can just follow me on LinkedIn. If they like what they hear, I create video content, been doing it consistently 3-4 months now. And it is such a blast to create this content. And a lot of people in my network love what I do because they tell me they love your content. So if you want to be entertained and learn a little bit about short form video and its impact on the world and what's happening with TikTok and all those things that you're wondering about, give me a follow on LinkedIn.
Perfect.
Yeah, those are the two things they can do.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation. And any last thing you feel led to share before we call it a wrap, Justin?
Yeah, actually, this is something that's becoming almost like my tagline. I won't call it that just yet, but I want to encourage your listeners. You're listening because you have a thirst for knowledge. If you have a thirst for knowledge, it means you have knowledge already, which means you have good things to say. And so don't let your fears prevent you from saying those things. One-to-ones are great, but they limit your impact. You need to have a way to speak to many people, one-to-many. Yeah. And short form video is a fantastic way to do that. Or talk with Kevin on his podcast.
There you go. Well, Justin, once again, thanks so much for taking the time to have this conversation. Really appreciate you. And I'm excited to get this out there and share it with a whole lot of other entrepreneurs. So thanks again.
Cool. Thank you for the opportunity, Kevin. Appreciate it.
You bet.